Welcome back to my channel, guys. This is Rabbit. Okay, let's get into it. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about the current trial that's going on right now with Maya Kowalski, her family versus what is it, John Hopkins out of Florida. This is a huge case, I think, that is going to possibly set changes in terms how child abuse is handled and how things are reported. As a former worker myself, CPS worker, I'm going to really set the tone for how things are reported and why things are reported. So, for those that are not familiar with the story, Maya Kowalski, her mother and her father, back in 2016, they're out of Florida, and essentially Maya was having all kinds of pain when she was growing up, and it was very debilitating, and it turned out to be CRPS, okay, which is a very debilitating type of condition that requires a variety of treatment. And again, this is complex regional pain syndrome. Well, Maya and her family had already gone to Mexico, had done all kinds of experimental treatment with ketamine. And so then there's a specialist out there, I believe in Monterrey, Mexico. Fast forward, here we are in a trial where, as a family, Maya, her father, and her brother are facing off the hospital, and that staff dismissed Maya's debilitating condition and falsely claimed that mom was making it up, and that according to the complaint, Pinellas County, the mother, Beata Kowalski, died by suicide because of the turmoil that the hospital created. State authorities had her daughter in custody of the hospital for more than 3 months. So all of that was very debilitating for Maya.
She was really upset.
Okay. More so than usual, obviously.
Definitely more so than usual.
Did she seem, from the tone of her voice and what you could discern from her, that she had given up hope, or was in the process of giving up hope?
She had given up hope. Absolutely.
Did she express anything more about why she had reached the point of no hope?
She shared that Maya was crying in the hearing, and that she just wanted a hug, and they wouldn't let her even hug her daughter. Mm-hmm. And she said that she didn't see a way that this would ever end, and that she just could not see a way to continue fighting, because no matter what she did, nothing helped Maya.
The lawsuit essentially says that Maya was held at John Hopkins All Children's Hospital in St. Petersburg with no legal justification, and the hospital is now denying all these allegations. Jack Kowalski, Beata's husband at the time and, widower, filed the lawsuit, and the complaint says that their daughter, Maya Kowalski, showed signs of debilitating conditions called complex regional pain syndrome since 2015 when she was 9. So in this kind of condition, and I know I had a lot of you guys at the chat when I went live about this, explain this to me in the sense that the body is very delicate in light touching, excruciating pain, resulting in symptoms of stiffness, spasms, limited mobility. The complaint that was submitted said that there was burning, bone crushing, shooting, and stabbing to describe the sensation, even by light touch. So the specialists, again, that were treating Maya back in the time recommended ketamine. And ketamine is clinically acceptable form of treatment that blocks pain receptors and allows the body's patients to revisit the sensation process. So this treatment was successful for Maya when she experienced these flare-ups of her symptoms. So back in 2016, Maya had a flare-up and she had to go to the hospital in October of 2016. Her parents took her to John Hopkins All Children's Hospital. And then the lawsuit claimed that staff dismissed the parents' instructions and even experts from Maya's specialists on how to treat her. The hospital lacked any kind of clinical or academic experience with CRPS. They also failed to do the treatments with her physical pain in mind, according to the complaint. The complaint further accused hospital staff of becoming offended and defensive when parents were suggesting the kind of treatment that they should have. The hospital social worker reported Beata to the Florida Department of Children and Families. When the DCF investigator quickly took Beata's side, hospital staff refused to let Maya go even though the parents wanted her transferred. The complaint said staff allegedly reached out to DCF and made false allegations about Beata, which included that mom had suspected mental issues. Mom was requesting Maya to be placed in a coma using pain medication. Mom got angry at Maya when she woke up and said she felt good and hungry. Mom was refusing Maya a donut. When she got hungry, mom was giving Maya unauthorized IV medications at home. Mom is believed to have mental issues, and Maya was not actually in pain. This is just some of the things that were alleged. At one point, Beata fainted in the courtroom on learning that they would take her daughter, the lawsuit stated. So the hospital is basically saying that it is a DCF and a judge, not John Hopkins All Children's Hospital, that investigates the situation and makes the ultimate decision about what course of action is in the best interest of the child. Losing Maya for months upended the family's life according to the lawsuit. So while Maya was away, they were struggling to find some level of normalcy. They struggled to reconcile the abuse of corporate and state power that was tearing their families apart after the previous year and a half of exhausting, financially straining medical care for Maya. In doing so, they petitioned the court and sought review of the sheltering order on numerous occasions, and at each instance continued to face Dr. Sally Smith. Now, we've talked about Dr. Sally Smith. Let me show you this clip.
It's likely that there will be drug abuse and alcohol abuse in the family in households where there are victims of child abuse. Disability is a risk factor. In Florida, prior report to the child abuse hotline is a very high risk factor. It's worse than many other parts of the country, and it's complicated, but we see over and over again children who are reported to the hotline, and sure, there are people who are wrongly accused, but I don't know, anybody show of hands in the room, anybody had 10 reports to the child abuse hotline regarding their family? So, once, yeah, maybe that was just a fluke, but, over and over and over again, and then they keep coming up with there's no findings, doesn't make any sense. One of the things we have to really keep in mind is that the primary problem with child abuse is that the person who has abused the child is full-on lying about what happened. And we have to remember that what we're being told is the history is a bunch of baloney, and it's our job to figure that out. So again, in the history, and this is a little different because in many of these children, they're young children, and so they can't give their own history. So we're getting history from the caretakers. And again, keep in mind that they're usually lying. So we have to ask lots of questions to trip them up. Most of the time, they've thought of the main lie, but they haven't thought of all the details. So if you keep asking questions, the story falls apart. And so that is where we get this idea of sort of inconsistent details, different details provided by different caretakers when they're interviewed separately. If we keep going backwards, then we often get information in terms of what was going on leading up to this injury that the child sustained. When in a child who's brain dead was the last time that they were up and running around and playing, because that tells you that at that point, this injury had not occurred. So we can narrow down the timing of the injury and the perpetrator and things like that by asking a detailed history. So these are just other kinds of questions that we would ask. We can, again, get a little bit of an idea, just like asking women how they settle arguments. What's discipline at your house? Now, a lot of these children who have had DCF come to their home multiple times are pretty savvy with this. And, they talk about timeout and they, say, oh no, I never get hit and things like that. Well, the younger ones sometimes are, out of the mouths of babes come great information sometimes. So, most of the time the older kids have been well coached, but the little kids can't keep the story together if you keep asking questions. So we want to look and see if the explanation is consistent with the injury. Are there any really objective witnesses and is what we're being told consistent with the child's age and developmental level. It's likely that there will be drug abuse and alcohol abuse in the family.
So the lawsuit basically says that the resulting prolonged separation from their suffering daughter manifested into Beata's depression, fatigue, and overwhelming sense of hopelessness. Beata voiced this depression and fatigue to John Hopkins and Dr. Smith, which to any reasonable trained physician indicated a possibility of suicide or other self-harm. Despite specific documented warnings, the hospital and Dr. Smith continued the campaign and threats towards Kowalski and specifically Beata. So Beata died by suicide on January 7th of 2017. 6 days later, the state finally let Jack care for Maya again. There was a court-appointed psychologist that testified that said that Maya's condition was legitimate and her parents were following the advice of specialists according to the complaint. Let me know, so the trial started this week. Let me know your thoughts in the comments if you've been watching it. What are your thoughts so far? These people need to be held accountable, in my opinion. Sometimes doctors, people in power think that they know best, and they don't really tend to listen to the people that they are treating, right? The patient and what matters, or even their voice. Their voices get muffled throughout this process, and they are the ones treating them as well as the families next to them. This is a bigger, I think, conversation and issue, and I hope that through this case, depending on, the outcome, that changes or start and that changes occur and legislation is in place. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I will see you guys on the next one. Rabbits out.